People come in all sorts. Once a mystery, there is a far greater understanding in our modern age as to why this is. There is a handful of systems, which work together to define the nuanced behavior, values, and personality traits that define each of us. We'll be talking about one such system today. Do you ever find yourself wondering why certain people are the way they are? Do you scratch your head when you look at some of the problems in the world, feeling the solutions are simple? Well, some of these things can be explained perfectly by a simple, yet little-known system for understanding human psychological development called spiral dynamics. Join us moving forward in this 9-video series on what is easily one of the most accurate, well-developed, and important psychology systems yet established. Do you want to understand your relationships better? Do you want to be a better leader? In this mini-video, we'll be covering the first of the 8 stages, called Beige. But not until we give you a little background. In 1951, Professor Clare Graves began to interview what would become thousands of people, particularly students, about what they value, and a body of data began to emerge concerning what people value at various stages of life. The research showed not only that people's values change over time, but that a person's values follow a set and predictable progression. His research was greatly expanded by Don Beck and Christopher Cohen, and is today a solid, well-developed body of research and system by which we can far better understand human psychological development. The model, very much akin to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, describes the way that we as infants only care about ourselves and employ only the very most basic means of survival. As we get older, mature, learn, and improve our ability to survive and even thrive, we start to incorporate less and less survival-based functions and interests. We start to incorporate more things like the arts. And we begin caring about others, even sometimes more than ourselves. Over time, individuals will move quickly through the spiral, until they reach the center of gravity, so to speak, within their own culture or community. In other words, a person will gravitate toward the stage they are surrounded by, and then, with work, mainly through introspection, they will rise slowly above it. In our society, where psychology is not held as being of great importance, many might wonder why they should bother to learn about it. Isn't it only useful for psychologists and therapists? Definitely not. The simple and basic facts are these. When one understands their own mind, one can overcome mental obstacles, diagnose problems, find solutions, and grow with 10 times the speed and efficiency. When one understands the minds of those they are interacting with, anger and stress can much more easily be averted. Arguments are replaced with understanding, and compassion abounds. A large percentage of our problems, personal, interpersonal, and global, could be avoided if only we understood one another better. Spiral dynamics shines a massive spotlight on the human psyche, and those proponents of it report a great increase in understanding, in love and in peace, in their own lives. The day that spiral dynamics is taught in public schools is the day our world begins to make swift progress toward becoming the utopia it can be when unconditional love is the primary mode of being.
Stage Beige.
When you are born, you have no thoughts, no conceptions, no formal means of communication. No anything really, except survival mechanisms and raw, unschooled emotions. It's kind of a cruel joke of the universe when you think about it. You know nothing, you can do nothing, and have no way of communicating anything to anyone except by crying or, a little later, smiling. You are at the complete and total mercy of whoever happens to be with you at any given moment. And your level of consciousness is essentially zero, relative to the current human standard of consciousness. You have only enough consciousness to do things like control your body, very poorly, express minimal emotions, and start to recognize faces. However, you start to figure things out very quickly because the newborn human brain is incredible at absorbing information. It's like a superpower. Little people for the win. Basically, there is very little to say about stage beige. An essentially neutral toned color, beige, arguably the color of most human babies' skin, coincidentally, has only enough consciousness to worry about its own basic survival needs. Beige is very much innocently selfish and animalistic. This self-centered nature makes it the first of the masculine color stages. Beige is, after all, erring on the side of warm-toned. And speaking of animalistic, come to think of it, animals are a perfect example of stage beige. In fact, they are in it. Like with any newborn baby, its circle of concern includes only the self and no one else. And that's perfectly alright. We can't expect any more from these little tykes. There is little else to say of this first and very basic stage, as this is, after all, a system of psychology, and there is very little psychology taking place in stage beige. Yet when the animal mind becomes capable of thought, a human being truly emerges, and we move into the next stage. What form will it take? We hope you'll continue on with stage purple. For as each stage is growing in consciousness, each is more complex and nuanced than the stage before it, and more interesting. Join us in the next video to better understand the minds of children and early civilizations. Thanks for watching, and for being willing to look.